Welcome to Rendlesham UFO. I'm Ian Marjam, your host. If you've been following previous episodes, you'll know we've covered the incident through the words of those involved. In this episode, we'll be looking at what happened immediately after the third night of the incident and beyond, all through the official paper trail with the UK Ministry of Defence. Until 2001, the official stance was simply that Halt's report had been scrutinised by air defence staff, who had decided it had no defence significance. But with Britain's Freedom of Information Act coming, the UK's Rendlesham file was uploaded onto the Ministry of Defence's website. The file reveals a rather lethargic reaction and apathy from Whitehall. Surprisingly, the papers reveal that the MOD never spoke to any of the American personnel or Suffolk policemen involved. As a result, the erroneous dates provided by Halt were accepted, and the cursory investigation was flawed from the outset.
The MOD desk officer at Defense Secretariat 8, DS-8, was Simon Whedon, who received Colonel Halt's report early in January 1981, 3 weeks after the events. We are now going to show some of the relevant paperwork detailing the level of scrutiny and actions taken. The bulk of the file is made up of correspondence between members of the public or the media with DS-8. However, we'll be focusing on internal correspondence within the MOD itself. The file opens with Lieutenant Colonel Halt's memo and the covering letter from his RAF liaison officer, Don Moreland, to DS-8, Whitehall, dated January 15, 1981.
Simon Whedon of DS-8 then circulated Halt's memo to a number of other MOD branches for advice. The other branches listed on the distribution list attached to Moreland's memo were DI-55, a defense intelligence branch involved in the investigation and assessment of UFO reports since 1950, PS/ACS, Ground, a branch responsible for maintaining 24-hour radar coverage of the UK and various radar installations. The MOD file appears to confirm that DS-8 knew nothing about Colonel Halt's report prior to receiving it, and by this time, the scent had already gone cold.
On January 26, 1981, a loose minute, an internal memo, was sent from RAF Squadron Leader J.D. Badcock to RAF Neatishead, requesting radar observations for the 29th December 1980, on the wrong date due to Halt's memo. 2 days later, on January 28, 1981, RAF Squadron Leader Badcock requests more information on the radiation readings and advises DI-55 of the incident. The following month, on February 16, 1981, Squadron Leader Badcock wrote back to DS-8 advising them that he had no response from either DI-55 or GE, adding, quote, "Neatishead regret that the radar camera recorded was switched off at 15:27 on the 29th of December 1980, and an examination of the executive logs revealed no entry in respect of unusual radar returns or other unusual occurrences. I have spoken with Squadron Leader Moreland at Bentwaters, and he considered the Deputy Base Commander, Halt, a sound source. I asked if the incident had been reported on the USAF net, and I was advised that tape recordings of the evidence had been handed to General Gabriel, who happened to be visiting the station. Perhaps it would be reasonable to ask if we could have tape recordings as well." A response to an earlier memo on February 23, 1981, produced a rather fuzzy explanation of the radiation readings from DI-52 to DI-55.
Background radioactivity varies considerably due to a number of factors. The value of 0.1 milliroentgens, I assume that this is per hour, seems significantly higher than the average background of about 0.015 mR. I would not expect the variation in this to be much more than a factor of 2, although it might be greater for specific reasons. If you wish to pursue this further, I could make inquiries as to natural background levels in the area. The way the US report is written, however, suggests that 0.1 mR was greater than they expected.
A February 26, 1981 memo contained a response confirming that radar film of reported sightings was, quote, faulty, and that the night of the reported sighting, December 29th, nothing was observed, which was the wrong night anyway.
There is no record that DS-8 followed up on DI-52's offer to investigate radioactivity. Simon Whedon suggested in a 2005 interview that intel officers did check Rendlesham Forest, but found nothing out of the ordinary. This may have fueled rumors of mysterious visitors to the forest after the incident.
March 2nd, 1981. DI-55 confirms it has no explanations for the phenomenon. 2 years later, after the Halt memo had been released, came this response, dated March 15, 1983. In response to inquiries by UFO researcher Jenny Randles, the desk officer at DS-8, Pam Titchmarsh, forwarded a request for further information on the MOD request for copies of the tape recordings taken by General Gabriel.
It is unknown whether the tape recordings were of all radio transmissions on the night or simply Halt's tape recording.
This March 21, 1983 memo shows how the MOD did not follow up and formally request recordings from the U.S. Air Force, as it was felt they would not add anything to already known facts, as shown in this loose minute, which seems somewhat baffling. Then on October 2, 1983, the Sunday tabloid The News of the World prints the front page story, "UFO lands in Suffolk, and that's official." This put the case into the public spotlight. It then prompted a question in the Houses of Parliament. On October 24, 1983, Sir Patrick Wall, a Conservative MP, posed a question in the UK Parliament regarding the Rendlesham Forest UFO incident. He specifically asked the Secretary of Defense whether the release of Colonel Halt's memo, dated 13 January, would prompt the UK government to disclose reports and documents concerning similar unexplained incidents within the UK. Stanley responded,
I have seen the memorandum of 13th January 1981 to which my honourable friend refers. Since 1980, the department has received 1,400 reports of sightings of flying objects, which the observers have been unable to identify. There were no corresponding unexplained radar contacts. Subject to normal security constraints, I am ready to give information about any such reported sightings that are found to be a matter of concern for a defence standpoint, but there have been none to date.
As you can see, the British Ministry of Defence seemed unimpressed by Halt's memo. They failed to investigate to any serious degree, and Colonel Halt's incorrect dates meant even if the radar returns had not been faulty, that any results would be useless too. Catch us soon in the next episode.
We'll play out today with News of the World from Killing Woke.
We got a memo called Unexplained Lights. The dates were off, so we traced the wrong nights. All radar records showed nothing in the skies. A dumb mistake or American lies. Suddenly it was the news of the world. 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 Tapes of the incident, secrets confined, taken by Gabriel, documents signed. In Ramstein they gathered, the rumors all grew, but the silence of power let nothing get through. Suddenly it was the news of the world. Suddenly it was the news of the world. Suddenly it was the news. A flicker of hope we all assumed was a slippery slope. Questions in Parliament, answers in vain. Information we could not obtain. No defense significance, they said with a grin. while the world held its breath for the secrets within. Truth lost in the corridors, hidden away, and the lights in the sky long faded to gray.